All right. Welcome Tuesday. We have great guest today, Coach Paradise from Moravian University, special teams coordinator, wide receiver coach. As always, I have Coach D with me to my left today, talking with you about coaching in the world around it. So, Coach, just quick background on Coach. He got his undergraduate degree at Becker College. Got his MBA at John Carroll University. Started coaching at Becker, and was a coach's assistant. Went on to be assistant coach at Muhlenberg, graduate assistant at John Carroll, assistant coach and special teams coordinator at the University of New England, and now is the special teams coordinator and wide receiver coach since 2023 at Moravian University. So we're really glad to have him on, talk some special teams, talk some wide receiver play, and really go from there. Coach, I touched on a little bit of your background. Can you talk a little bit about your journey into coaching and the background in there? It looks like you started as while you're still an undergrad as well. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so football for me started, I guess, third grade. My first year playing Pee Wee football. Hated it, wanted to quit. My mom, it's like, I paid the money, you're finishing the year. And, obviously fell in love with the game, and here we are. But played high school football at Cherokee High School in South Jersey, traditional powerhouse there under Coach Megan. Really fell in love with the idea of being a coach kind of in high school. Wanted to teach and coach high school football. Then I got to college at Becker, played tight end and wide receiver all 4 years, and then really started coaching that spring in spring ball as an assistant, helping out before graduation. Graduated, interviewed at Muhlenberg College, was the tight ends and fullbacks coach there for 2 seasons. Under Mike Donnelly and then Nate Milne, who's the head coach there now. Transitioned to a graduate assistant at John Carroll University out in Cleveland, Ohio. Worked with the running backs there for 2 years. COVID shut down the world. Found myself up in Maine at the University of New England as the wide receivers coach to start, and then earned the special teams coordinator position there my second year. And then our head coach, Jeff Long at Moravian, got the job in February 2023. High school teammate of mine, was team captain for me, 2 years older. And then, gave me the call and a chance to get a little bit closer to home. So jumped at the opportunity, and here we are.
Very cool. Moravian University in Pennsylvania, Division III. What is it about the programs there at Division III level that you really found, stimulating as far as coach goes and from development of the players?
Yeah, it's, they're really not receiving anything from a perk. There's no perks to, you're not getting a scholarship, you're not getting free meals, you're not getting anything. You're really just playing sports for the love of the game and because that's what you enjoy doing. So there's a certain passion tied with Division III sports that, you're obviously paying a lot of money to continue and compete and do what you love. So kind of sets us apart from some of the other levels there.
Special teams and taking over special teams, especially the last place you were at, University of New England. And where's the University of New England located?
Biddeford, Maine.
Biddeford, Maine.
Southern Maine, yeah, right on the water. Beautiful.
Is it near Portland or is it
South of Portland? Yeah.
Oh, okay, south of Portland.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wasn't as familiar. Okay, cool. So when you took over special teams coordinator, like what did that give you the opportunity to really do there? What was it about special teams?
Yeah, so our head coach was doing it at the time. It was about week 7. He pulled me in. Second kid was on the way. And he said, "Hey, you're going to run special teams going forward. Any questions?" All right, let's roll, So we kind of, just took over what he did and tried to make sure, try not to screw it up. for lack of better terms. And then I had the full off season to kind of put my own spin on things. The fun part about it is you get to work with, a much larger section of the roster. You are working with the majority of the players on the team. You're getting to know more guys than it's just, your position coach or sticking to just offense, right? So it's a fun list of, getting to work with different personalities, different type players. And then obviously, it's just a big macrocosm of the game of football. So, getting experience teaching tackling, how to, vice tackle, all that good stuff, all these different skills that as an offensive coach my whole career, I have very little experience doing. So it's a good, kind of segue to boost my football knowledge.
Yeah, it's the special teams gives you the opportunity to work with a lot of different players and from both sides of the ball, different mentalities, mindsets, and it's a great thing. And I see that you're in the same role as far as like position wise, wide receiver coach, and doing that role. But you've been in multiple different positions, mostly on the offensive side of the ball, if I'm not mistaken. Is that like where you're kind of focused at? Mostly, is it the offensive side? Is that?
Yeah, I really enjoy, the offensive side of the game. I'm not opposed to coaching defense. It just cars haven't fallen that way. So
Right.
It's just been what I've been doing.
Right.
So.
Right.
What coach, as far as special teams, like what's your philosophy as far as how you approach the game, how you approach special teams? Are you aggressive? Are you conservative? Are you trying to steal points? What's kind of your approach to special teams?
I have flipped immensely. So, taking over it, everything was don't screw it up, be as conservative as possible, survive to live another snap. Since the move, for some reference, when we took over at Moravian, we didn't have a specialist on the roster, right? So no kicker, no punter, just kind of winging it. We went for 2 more than anybody in the country. So my mindset is kind of flipped and taken more of that offensive personality to it, dictate the game, force people to react to what you're doing instead of, just trying to, again, survive. So I've definitely grown and become much more aggressive and creative and versatile in what we do.
Yeah, Coach, I find it's interesting too, right? Because you're talking about, so when it comes to like Division 3 levels and things like that, like most times staffs are kind of hamstringed in that there's not a lot of full-time guys, there's not a lot of staffers, like you don't have a lot of help when it comes to just the staff in general. And then when you want to talk special teams, right, like that's for the most part, even in especially in a high school level, but even at college, those lower levels, that kind of gets pushed to the side, and it's like, hey, offense, defense, we got to focus here. And then, all right, as long as our specials don't screw it up, right? So I can totally see where, a staff like that wouldn't be a focal point of it, where you didn't even have a specialist on the roster in terms of, all right, hey, we'll get it done. This guy kicked in high school, or hey, this guy, he punted in high school, so they could get it done. Another athlete. And it's just so opposite of like where I came from playing at Montclair State, where special teams was like so pivotal in every single thing that we did. Just in terms of even practice breakdown. I mean, we had more special time built into practice than I think any team in the country, hands down. It was like at least an hour of, 3 segments of specials, and it just factored into it so much. But to see how impactful that can be in a game, right? How was that? How did you guys, when you came in, how did you flip that switch with the players to kind of show them, hey, this is pivotal, this is important, we need to really focus more so on this phase of the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's certainly multifaceted, right? So like you said, time invested in it's incredibly important. If you're going to spend the time on it, they realize we're dedicating a third of practice to this specific thing, right? Coach buy-in, right? And passion from the coaches. I'm a big believer that that stuff's contagious, right? So if we care about it, it'll trickle down to, you know, them caring about it. The third part, success obviously helps when you start impacting the game in a positive manner and they can visually see, you know, snap, and then find a way to like create buy-in. So we give helmet stickers. The only way you get a helmet sticker is through special team snaps, right? Or give out t-shirts,
awesome.
or a Gatorade, or you know what I mean? Like create a reward system that
something, absolutely.
Out, you know, oh, look at how many stickers I got. You don't get any stickers. Get on teams, right? So
right. Yeah. No, I think that's phenomenal. That's awesome. That's interesting. I never thought about it like that. Like only giving stickers for that. Like that's a totally different mindset. That's awesome though. Like I said, the buy-in is huge, right? When your coaches are juiced about it, or they, you know, it matters to them, then I think, like you said, it trickles down to players. Also, a lot of these guys want to get on the field as soon as possible. That's the biggest way to do it, right? Or to get on the bus to travel. Do you break it down in terms of, I know you're the overall coordinator, but how do you do it? Do you break it down with assistant coaches in terms of, you know, each guy handles a team themselves, or is each team broken down coach positions?
That second option. Yeah. So
okay.
Kind of overrun the whole thing and then, you know, divvy up the coaches. You're coaching this technique on this position.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And let them in the show. And if they think there's a better way to do things, we do it. I'm really lucky with the amount of time we had and the group of guys we work with.
It is
it's awesome.
The way the practice is structured around special teams. How do you guys structure it? Kind of what's the philosophy and where do you guys interject it throughout practice?
Yeah, we every day before practice we have a film room right next to the field. So it's 30 minutes of special teams right before we go out for warm-ups, just to organize the day, go over what we're doing, all that good stuff. And then, you know, stretch or specialist pre-practice, so punting, catching punts, all that good stuff. And then I encourage there's a lot of guys who aren't doing those things. So I encourage the position coaches to grab their group, you know, like if we're working kickoff return, you grab the front line guys, you work the drill, you walk through it so we can just hit the ground running. So just trying to maximize, you know, the time that we get. And then they're intermingled throughout the day. So it's a good segue in between, you know, team periods to other team periods, right? And like Skelly, and then we'll do punt and then into team and then, you know, kickoff return or however else. But
it makes a lot of sense. From a recruiting standpoint, do you guys recruit specialists at your level or do you turn guys into specialists? Okay. Talk about how you guys handle that.
Yeah. You know, I think the biggest thing you could do, you know, and this is spilling secrets, but, you know, a lot of coaches overlook that position, you know, so give them the time of day, you know.
Like, oh, gosh. Yeah.
Like we had a long snapper up and he was the only guy on campus that day, you know, and the whole staff spent the entire day with him. Like, and he's like, this was incredible. You know, nobody else.
I mean, nobody talking to that guy like that.
You know, so find a way to, you know, obviously let them know you appreciate them and, you know, do those types of things. Would be kind of how we handle it.
Well, I think it's a go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No. Good. Got it.
No, I say it's one of those, you know, in terms of, especially there's just so many of those guys, right? Like and now, you know, with the whole specialization, it's not just specialists in terms of special teams guys. Like there are guys that consider themselves specialists when it comes to the quarterback position or specialists in the receiver position or any of those types of things. So I think just recruiting in general, when you can get those guys on campus, no matter what, especially at your level, right? I know you guys have really kind of upped the facilities recently and things of that nature. it's hard to get those guys on campus. But once you do, I think then it's an opportunity no matter what. Look, they've already shown an interest enough to get to campus. That's like phase one of the entire thing. That's already somewhat of a win when it comes to that. But now if all of a sudden, like, even if a guy, like, you don't have to sit down with the guy every time, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of every guy on the staff, but if you just know that guy's name or something about him, or, you know what I mean? Like, that is huge, especially with these kids nowadays. Like, they love all of this stuff, all these messages and social media stuff. Like, that's a huge part of the whole thing. And for you to kind of, hey, there's a long snapper here, hey buddy, like, show him that love. I mean, I was surprised. It was, I'm sure for him, like, boom,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, this is the spot, dad. Like, mom, this is where I'm going, right? Like, it's huge, but it's a pivotal part that I think a lot of coaches just kind of, they overlook it until it's an issue, right? Like, nobody knows who the long snapper is until he sails one over his head for,
Yeah.
you know, that's it, right?
Long
Or
game that way, you know, so it hurts you when it hurts you, and if you don't prep for it,
right,
you'll be crying later.
absolutely.
No doubt about it. Staying along the lines of recruiting, what do you guys like to do? Do you go out to the schools? Do you go to camps? Do you have them come to your camps? What is it you guys like to do from a recruiting standpoint?
Yeah, so we'll go out on the road in schools, both in the spring period and then again in the winter. You know, so this time of year is really identifying the next group.
Right.
Obviously, the goal is to try and get them on campus this summer, you know, whether that's a junior day or an individual visit. And then, you know, our goal really in recruiting is have guys on campus as many times as possible, you know, and we explain that the whole way. Like,
Absolutely.
Like,
how important is the building of that relationship? Because, especially at the Division III level, getting the right person to your school, talk more about that relationship building, because I think players completely undervalue that at the high school, like the high school kids, like, and maybe their parents too. I don't know, but I don't think they do enough of it. And I think that they spend a lot of time in places that aren't even going to recruit them. You know, talk about like your advice from that standpoint, like for what you're looking for kids to come from Moravian.
Yeah. You know, they're chasing the big one like everybody was at, you know, 17 18 years old. So, you know, I can't necessarily fault them for dreaming, but the relationship's everything, you know. It is again, my theory is the more times you're on campus, the better we get to know you, the better feel you get for us, the place, all that good stuff. I encourage recruits to go on as many visits as possible elsewhere as well. Like,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're spending a lot of money to do this, and it's their life, not mine. So obviously we want the good ones, but you know, the fit's got to be right, because they could be the best player in the world and they don't want to be there, and then they transfer or leave or drop out or don't succeed academically because they don't like the place or the coaches, right? So ensuring that the fit goes both ways, I think, is kind of critical.
And the best way to do that is to get on campus, to meet you guys, to come to, I guess, camp is part of that too. How many kids do you typically see? Like, so how many camp dates do you run this summer? Like, how many kids do you typically see?
We do. We don't host a camp. We'll do three junior days, one of which already happened. We have one May 30th, and then we'll do one right before camp starts.
Okay.
And then we're out and about at most of your, you know, FCS schools locally.
Yeah, that's smart.
Camps.
That's smart.
We hit the local other camps. You know, the D2, your Lehigh,
the mega camps type of thing.
I might catch some slack, but I am so anti mega camp.
So you're going to
coach? No, you listen.
So you go to FCS camp that has like 10 to 15 other coaches from other schools at it, maybe like so, like a small. Okay.
100 to 200 prospects.
Right.
You can make an impression. They're going to remember you. You're going to remember them. You're going to remember their 12 reps they take instead of the 2 reps. You know.
I love it.
it's more
That's a
bang for the
great
buck for us. Like
100%.
I could meet 1,000 kids at a mega camp, and I don't remember any of them, and they don't remember me.
Right.
So,
Right. I think that's the problem with the mega camps, unless you
yeah,
Coach. Yeah, and we've talked about it, Dave, over and over, right?
At that camp, the kid that's going to wow at that camp is not even going to come to you. Some kid blasts a 4.4. You notice him. Everybody else notices him. He's going to the big school. So it's not even like you're not even going to be able to decipher between the kids that are okay. This kid ran like a 4.7. This might be more 4.6 something. He's more our guy. I'm curious as to reason why you guys don't host your own prospect camps. Is it just because you feel like there's only so many places kids can go during the summer, and if you go to a place that is going to have 100 200 kids, that's a better place for you? Is that kind of what's the philosophy on that?
Yeah, I think we evaluate highly off of tape, right?
Right. Okay.
If a kid can play on tape, the camp's not going to dissuade me from recruiting him.
Okay.
Or not. So we'd rather have a junior day where I can sit down and talk with the family instead of kids showed up, worked out, nice job today, and then they're out of town, right? Whereas, I'd rather sit down, be able to have conversations with the player, with the parents, show them campus, all that good stuff.
Hell yeah.
Takes care of itself.
Have you found it's as with everything, like with kids transferring and all that kind of stuff, is it now easier to get kids on campus? Is it harder to get kids on campus? Is the focus on the junior days allow you to get more kids that you get an opportunity to meet with? How does that all work?
Yeah. I'd say getting kids on campus is the same as it's always been.
Okay.
I don't think that's really changed as far as things go, Yeah. As far as that, it's kind of been same as it's always been. The transfer portal's been as good for Division III football as kind of anything.
Right.
Talent-wise, competition-wise, quality of football. Our school's kind of traditionally been set up to be a successful place for transfers outside of athletics, so now it's been something that we've been able to really hone in on, and quite frankly, a huge portion of why we've been able to turn this thing around so quick.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Moravian, they've talked about it before, it's kind of it was a hidden gem kind of place in the Division III area, like really, really pretty campus and great place. And then if you need candy, you just go down to the Peeps headquarters and you go get yourself some candy especially for Easter. But yeah, no, it's a. Do you know where the Peeps store is? The Peeps? Yeah. All right. That's always my question for a Moravian coach. Yeah. Because I've been there. I know that's like the big company. That's like a $1 billion company that's right in the middle of that town. So it's really interesting because of the sweet spot it's in. But you're right. It
no pun intended.
Yeah. It's not. A lot of times it isn't the first thing that's on people's mind, but as they go through the process, they see what Moravian really offers, and it's different than a lot of other schools at the Division III level, which I think when you hit home on that makes a ton of sense. And DJ Nymphius is always, I don't know if you know DJ Nymphius, but I'm sure you do. He's always since I coached him for years and been friends with him, always talks Moravian football. Like I could see him one day, in a rocking chair as your guys like volunteer, whatever you put him at, analyst, and just sitting there and helping out. Yeah. But yeah, it's always been, I think that kind of a place, and I think. What you guys are really doing a great job is really driving that home that now it's, becoming more the place. Right. And, is the is the philosophy as far as like, from the type of recruit you guys want, is it an academic kid? Is it a kid that kind of, has good academics or great academics, really good. Like what is the kind of mix of kids that you try to bring in?
Yeah, I'd say we're in that, good academics standing. We're certainly not Johns Hopkins, but
Right.
Right.
We are, it's an old school. It's the 6th oldest college in the country. There's a lot of history. So
Yeah.
been around for a long time, as far as that goes. What was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
Well, it was just more along the lines of like, the mix of the kind of the players you want. So like, are you able to take in like, good academics, and then are you able to take in kids that, might be decent students, but are like, you scale it based off of the level of player they are, that kind of a thing?
No, I mean,
okay.
The rules kind of the rule. The hard part is like, just like most Division III schools, the higher academics, the more money they're going to get. Right.
Okay. So there it is. Okay.
You're always playing with that line. Even if a kid gets in, well, he's low academically, he's not going to be able to afford school most of the time. Right. So,
right.
Or some of the time. Right. So just finding that fit where all the boxes align. And that's why, again, that multi-visit's so important, right? You're just checking off boxes as you go. Is location what we want? Is size? Is, academics lineup? Do I have my program? Does the money work? Do I like the staff? Is football important to me, right?
Right.
That's the one I took it from my first boss. And, how important is playing college football to you? If it's a 5 out of 10, it's probably not a good match for us, right? Like,
no.
Especially especially Division III, right? Because it's not like you're gonna have to want to go out there. It's not like you're on full scholarship and it's because your athleticism that you're in that spot and maybe you can get away. Division III, you have to want to be there. You have to want to be a part of it because it's not like you're going to get some other perk, some like crazy perk. Right. I'm sure the perks have gotten better over the years at Division III, but it's not not like at the higher levels. And that's is that why you guys want that guy that loves football, right? That's because when it gets tough in camp, if they don't love it,
right,
it's too easy to just pack it in, right? It's too easy, and then you get enough of those guys packing it in. Division III, you turn around and you go, "Where's my roster?" Right? So,
it's tough year round. Like we're a 5:30 a.m. lift team, So, and the off season's probably harder than in season. So you gotta really love the game of football.
Yeah, I think you guys, coach, as sorry, Dave. For you guys as a staff, how many full timers? How many part timers? Because I always think like Division III, like that matters. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, we have 4 full timers, including the head coach.
It's awesome.
We have 3 like younger intern type positions in house year round, and then we have 4 part timers who work other jobs and come in and help out. So
that's really good, coach. That's real good. Obviously, every comparison I make is to like the NJAC conference here, and for me, being an alum of Montclair State and whatnot, and they still they have 3 full timers. That's it. You know what I mean? Like every other guy is either a high school teacher and they're coming in after practice or whatever, and then you sprinkle in some of those student GAs or merit type guys. I think that's where a lot of guys can steal pivotal coaching minutes and things of that time. Now with the expansion of college coaching rosters just in general, where a lot of the focus and people are, I think, starting to take notice of it a little bit, but slowly and steadily, that the on the field guy isn't exactly like the main focal point anymore in terms of that type of stuff, where you have guys that are running the social media or the film guys, or Division III, those guys all wear the same hat. You know what I mean? Like they wear a lot of hats. They have to do a lot, right? So if you can get in there as a student assistant or I always feel like if you get at the lower levels first and then work your way up, like you're just going to be so much better as like a Swiss Army knife because you've handled so many things. You know, we talk to a lot of guys that, oh yeah, I used to hand out the equipment, or yeah, I do the film work, or I handle the student managers and all those types of things. You know, it's really more of like it's just a lot more hats that you wear that you can put on that resume and say, hey, I've done this portion of it, or, you know, I've recruited guys, you know, from these areas. I think that's also big too, is look, at the end of the day, it's about relationships, especially now with the transfer portal and how that whole thing goes. So you may miss on a guy, but if you're still the guy that you don't burn bridges, or you're not that type of whatever, that guy might bounce back to you. We've seen it, you know, so many times where guys want to reach for that level and they think it's something, and then they go and it's like, you know, they're there for one year and it's like, hey, I don't like this, or hey, coach, I'm thinking about making a move, right? So I think your focus, and I can tell just because, you know, when you say no to the mega camps, that relationship part of it matters, and getting guys on campus matters for that staff, for your staff. And I think that's why you'll continue to trend, you know, upward, is because of those relationships, because you're real about it, right? It's not just a, you know, message here. It's you get to know who they are, and then look, they're going to make that decision at the end of the day, no matter what it is. So, you know, just keeping those relationships, never burn bridges and whatnot. We've seen a lot of guys, you know, do really well with that.
Yeah. No negative interaction.
It's definitely something for you guys. Yeah, no, I mean, you don't want to do that, right? And you look at some of these guys that it's like, look, you never know where a coach is going to move or make a jump to, right? So, you know, you might have a relationship here, and now all of a sudden, like, now you're up there and, hey, we're going to go, and, you know, maybe a guy goes with you or whatever. But, you know, I just think it's just something that, especially schools that have something to, like, you know what I mean? Like, they have a foundation and they continue to trust that process and recruit the way they recruit their guys, and make those guys feel, you know, like a place, like, why would you leave? Why would you go anywhere else? Because you have everything you need here. The grass isn't always greener. It's a really hard concept for guys to understand, because that transition from high school to college, it's different, right? It just, no matter what it is. So you have to be on, you know, you have to have those little connections and whatnot. It's really, really, really important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and there's no doubt about it. As far as kind of my final kind of question on everything, as far as like where you see kind of football going at Division III level over the next few years, you know, for yourself and for obviously football in general, where do you kind of see it all going? There's so many changes in college football. I'm sure it spins your head at times when you get this new rules coming down, or this new things come down. Talk more where you're seeing, because I just saw they added I don't know if that affects you guys or not. The spring practices, they added the 7 practices, right? That you could do 15 and you could do like 7 like OTA type things. I don't know if that triggers that Division III, but talk about where you see it all. You might see it all going. I mean, there's no crystal ball, but what you might see happening.
God, what a question. That's a lot to unpack there. I mean, it is. You're seeing this unique. I think you're going to see this leveling of levels, right? Like, you're seeing some of these FCS. I forget who it was, drop down to Division III.
Oh, St. Francis.
Yeah, like, I think you're going to see more of the, you know, big schools rise up and more people drop down, just for national college enrollment. You know, people need the numbers and can't afford to pay scholarship money right now, you know? So, as far as that trend goes, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Sure.
And I think you're going to see more and more, you know, of that happening. And then schools closing, all that stuff. It's a crazy time to be in, you know, the college world right now in general. So how it goes, you know, we'll kind of ride the storm and see what's going on.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Great answer. it's really been great having you on, Coach. Taking some time to talk about Moravian, talk about what you're doing. And then I don't know if you guys get any time off, but anytime you do get, try to enjoy it.
Yeah. No, we're good about that.
Really good. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you, bud. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we got a little insight into Moravian. Who was the last guy we had on from Moravian? Didn't we have somebody else on recently?
Strength guy.
Yes, that's what it was. I was trying to think. I was remembering we talked Moravian football. So I think we should do like an episode where we have like the Moravian head coach on with DJ, and they start talking around Moravian and the pros of it. I thought it was
Coach Nymphius went there.
Yeah, I think he's still my whole records receiving wise there. He was a receiver there.
Makes sense.
Ton of. I don't know if they were very good when he was there.
It's a cool spot.
But
their schedule's tough. They play a tough schedule.
Right. Who are some of the teams that are in? Is Dickinson and
that's it's
Gettysburg? And are they all in their league?
Like looking at their schedule, like coming up, they play Muhlenberg. They go to Muhlenberg like to this year. Like they go to Muhlenberg, to Rowan, Ursinus, William Patterson, Lycoming, Wilkes, Western Connecticut, Wineta, Susquehanna. Like, dude.
Susquehanna, okay.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
they play Lycoming,
Wilkes.
They do. Oh, they do play Lycoming. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule. Yeah. Yep. Is Albright on their schedule or no? Different conference.
Different conference.
Right.
I mean, but it's interesting because they like their schedule. Like they ain't ducking people. You know what I'm saying? Like they're playing some hammers when it comes to like whoever they are in terms of scheduling like out of like division games. They got get invited to Colts rookie minicamp. Like that's pretty cool.
Who was?
They have a kid from a receiver.
Okay.
Jordan Bingham. Like he's got invited to Colts rookie minicamp. Like that's cool. If you look at their roster, I mean, they're pretty spread out, you know what I mean, in terms of like where guys are from and whatnot. Like it's not all of, certain areas. I mean, there's a lot of there's Jersey Cats, there's Maryland Cats, there's obviously Pennsylvania, but I mean, there's a bunch of, you know what I mean? Like they're not like it looks like there's some. They're not all transfers, or they're not all. You know what I mean?
Right,
like they have a good amount of Jersey guys, obviously.
I'm not surprised the transfers is just because of where they're located. It's probably because there's so many Pennsylvania colleges.
Oh God, there's so many.
Are a big deal.
I mean, and look, this is cool too. Like I'm looking here, and there's like 3 or 4 like graduate transfers on their roster, right? Like that was the kid that got invited to camp. He's a graduate transfer. There's another graduate transfer running back here from Illinois. So it's cool to see them roll the dice with that too. Like that's a cool thing. And look, that's not a bad spot to go get a graduate degree from. They look really young, to be honest.
You said Bingham is in camp?
He got invited to the Colts camp.
He had last year. He had 75 catches.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a graduate transfer.
69. I have Nymphius's catches thing here. Nymphius had 53 in 1980. They must have been running some sort of 53
they got a TV transfer.
That's a good amount of catches back then. But yeah,
52?
What's that?
52.
He had 53 in 1980. Bingham had 144 catches in his career.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a graduate receiver transfer from Indianapolis. So he came from North Central. He was a stud.
Okay.
6 foot 195. Yeah, of course 100 catches. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt he got invite to camp.
The other kid, I know the name. I can't remember why I know the name. Nick
There's a
Petro.
bunch of Jersey cats.
Yeah.
Ramapo kid.
Let's see, career. Interesting. I like looking at
Ramapo, Cedar
name.
Grove.
They always have a good amount of Jersey kids. Yeah. Their footprint definitely, because of where they're located, Bethlehem.
Yeah. And they're really, if you look at this roster, man, they're young. There's a lot of freshmen, sophomores on this list. Obviously, a new head coach, I'm sure that matters, but look, it's just, I don't know. I like that stuff. I think that stuff, I always like that stuff. And a cool facility, man. Like a really cool looking facility.
Great quarterback too. This last year. Wow. They how many games? They won a good amount of games, I think, this year. The quarterback had 35 completions in the game, 33 completions in the game, 29 completions in the game, 28 completions in the game. He had 27 a bunch of times.
Must have had a really good line.
Oh, yeah. Single season, 265 completions this year. Last year was 244. Both of the records there. 550 completions in his career. Jared Jenkins. I'm sure he doesn't get, as a D3 quarterback, probably not getting a sniff, but he was obviously good. They must have had a good line, and they must be, I wonder if they're faster pace. They must be running either air raid or, something along those lines, or run and shoot, getting that many completions, as you would know. But yeah, it was good talking a little Moravian football.
Seeing a lot of guys wearing that special teams coordinator and receiver title now. Like it used to be, I don't know. There's a lot to that.
I thought it used to be like tight ends or something.
The tight ends guy is usually, because that's you can always take the tight end guy and put him with the O line, or you can take the tight end guy and put him with the receivers, right? Like you could always take that position and go from there. I don't know. I guess you can always take the receivers and put them with the quarterbacks coach, right? I guess. So I feel like the special teams coordinator role always, if there was a position attached to it, it was always a position that could be kind of somebody else can take those guys while special teams are going on, or, but I think it's really awesome how they do that in terms of each guy gets divvied up. All right, it's punt. You got the gunners, you got the tackles, you got the interior, right? You got the shield. I think when you divvy it up like that, each team, each coach coaches something. I think that it's better in terms of the buy-in from the players. And now you have, hey, you're responsible for watching these two guys every time we do punt. It's just really hard in high school because it's with staffing. You know what I mean? It's is this guy coming today, or am I going to have this guy? You know what I mean? You got to be really, really, smart about how and who you put in charge of what. And then they got to do their job, on a daily basis. Special teams time isn't just, hey, let's go to the side and everybody just talk about whatever. No, dude, we got to be coaching just as hard as we are with offense and defense. I think that's what separates teams, really. And you got to have a philosophy with that, or you have to have a head coach that really buys into that. And that's tough, especially at the high school level.
I think high school and D3 are similar with that because of less quote unquote specialists, right? So whereas the higher levels,
yeah, but I'm telling you, dude, those kickers and
stuff, guys are super conservative. You think there's guys that are just let's get to the next you think so? You think there's
what's that?
Do you think at the higher level that those special teams coordinators, you think that some of them are kind of tasked as, hey, just be conservative, take care of business, don't have any mistakes?
I don't know if in this day, and I think there's a level of, I think it depends on the level of your program, right? If you're, or what you do as an overall team philosophy, philosophy, right? If you're an attacking, explosive type of offense, aggressive, like all of that kind of, then I think you just follow suit with it with your specials, because how can you expect guys to like, okay, well, the offense, we're explosive, aggressive, we're this, and now special teams, hey, we're just going to like kind of lay up and make sure we do. Like, no, it's got to be an overall type of team mindset that has to keep firing on all cylinders continuously just to keep it going and going and going. Now, look, you still have to be smart about certain things and play the situational game, and like, hey, we're not coming after this right here, we're gonna like safe it or whatever. I think that comes into just philosophy when it comes to like gameplay and being smart about situations. But I think overall, I think special teams adds a level of a lot of things. You can now, like, that could be where you're telling a guy, this is the first time you're going to get on the field, you're going to do this, right? And that's why you're going to come here and you're play early, because you can long snap and whatever. So I think you can use it as a recruiting pitch in terms of that. And also, I think no matter what, hey, you got to play special teams, because when your goal is to get to the NFL. And let me tell you, in the NFL, like, you're going to play special teams until you're that guy. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how you stay on a roster in the NFL. Like, you gotta be able to do a lot of things, especially if you're coming from one of those lower levels. Like, that's your shot in terms of that. So I think if you pitch it that way to guys, they buy in a little bit more. Also, a lot of them have never been coached up on special teams until they get to college. Like, unless you're the main guy and you're a kick returner, punt return, like, guys don't know. The guys don't teach techniques for special teams in high school, at least from what I've seen. I don't see any special teams individual going on at most high school practices. I don't think they do that shit. I think they just line it up and say, all right, here's punt. Hope we have 11 and go. I hope I'm wrong.
No, I know. I think a lot of high schools definitely do that. There's no doubt. Like, that used to be why I always felt like, that's why I always feel like, used to feel like I would have
we always had an advantage.
Yeah. So, like, let's see if we can take advantage of it here, because
we coach it. That's not a thing.
Yep. And I'm even like, I just, and by the way, it makes the game a little more fun too. Like, I mean,
dude. And it's not a knock on coaches, because look, they're just, sometimes guys are just in survival mode, right? And it's like, look, that's the, if you're talking Group 1 football where you're a small team roster, like, dude, you're just trying to survive on specials, right? Like, I just want to have enough guys that are healthy to be able to, like, not do something negative, right? So I understand that part of it too. And obviously, but I think if you install it as a part of the culture, right? Like, kind of like what we did when I was with you, right? Like, special teams mattered, and we practiced it from an individual standpoint and a team standpoint. Practice, we put it in situationally where, we'd be in an offensive script and all of a sudden it's like, hey, punt. So they get, you know what I mean? Like, we did it so that they understood the game stuff. We taught higher level things in terms of, like, very much situational when it comes to, hey, if the kick is blocked on this side of the line, we're doing that. You know what I mean? Like, we really taught it with detail, and that mattered. And then you saw it come out in game when we would block punts, or, you know what I mean, get a really good return. Like, those are big time momentum changing things that a lot of guys don't really, it's hard. It's really hard to find that time. And unless you're really structured in your practices and things like that, like, those things could slip away. It's really hard to get the kids to turn on juice and buy into something that you only do on Thursday, lining up, making sure 11 are out there,
There's no doubt. I think it's very, very important if you want to have a team that goes after it and gets it, to, like, make special teams important. I think those teams end up being much better. But there are. I saw some interesting things where guys talked about guys with coaches, and they were talking more about along the lines of, like, middle school and youth coaches for the most part, but they were trying to apply it to, like, coaches in general. Football guy,
what do you do? What do you do for youth? What are special teams for youth?
I have the same philosophy that I do at high school. I'm running similar stuff now. Once we start to kick extra points, which
that's new this year, right?
well, we could kick last year, but we didn't have anybody that could put it through. Although I had a kid at the end of the year that in the All-Star
Remember?
he made one. So
you're like, what are you doing?
I think
But does that have to be a full operation, Dave? Does it have to be a full snap to block to whole the whole? It has to be the full gamut.
Yeah. So if we can actually kick it, then I might, then I'll give you something to do there. But punt, block. Not that many teams punt yet, but absolutely.
I mean, it's a game changer if you can. You know what I mean? For you guys, like once you can punt, right? Like now
we punted. We actually punted a few times. And we had a guy that could run fake from it because he was a really good athlete. Course.
And you're allowed to do that rule-wise. There's no rules like harnessing you or holding you guys back in terms of that. No. Like, that's awesome.
Yep.
I remember when we were playing Pee Wee, Dave, that was like the biggest thing. Like our coach, like as soon as we can kick extra points, like we're kicking extra points, like because it just gave you a better advantage. I mean,
you get more points.
I remember being in I think we were like 4th grade, dude, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna start trying to kick," and we're like, "What? Like, what are we doing?" Like, and it was, I'm telling you, dude, it was a big thing. I don't think we kicked until 5th or 6th. 6th grade, I think we were where we were like consistently like back through. But they tried early for us because it gave us more points, I think.
So what I saw this guy talk about was like coaching and like good coaches, and he was talking about how like some of these guys who run stacked teams like think that they're great coaches, but they have talent, And the most important thing is what Bill Belichick said the other day on I don't remember. Pivot. I think it was Pivot.
Right. It was awesome. Yep, the Pivot. Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder.
Yeah, where he said it's about the players, right? So the players are the ones that
he's like, I had really good players.
Yeah, they win.
Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Like, I don't know. It's just for a guy to like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, look, I coached, like, he gave his like 4 linebackers when he was at the Giants. He's like Lawrence Taylor, who, like some of the names are like, Harry Carson or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he ripped through, right. And he was like, dude, like anybody could have coached these 4 guys. You know what I'm saying? And then he was like Rodney Harrison, like, he just went through the whole Rolodex. Tom Brady, like this guy, that guy, Randy Moss. He's like, I had really good players. Like, and that's why we, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he was, it's all about what we did or we did that. Like, no, it was straight up like, that's why we were good. And I think people don't at the end, like, guys, I think it's changing a little bit. I really do, where guys are embracing individuals. I think that's just our culture in general now. But, like, this is my system. We got to run my system. We got to do this. We got to do that. Like, dude, like, if you have a guy that can do things, then figure out a way to let him do what he does. You have to let good players be good, Yeah.
Yep. That's you got to let them go and just that's the hardest thing. It's like if you got a really good player or players to not try and control the aspect as a coach because you end up making it worse. So,
like, I think you'll find this interesting. Like, your running back guy from Boise, right? He went to Raiders.
Yep.
Right. You loved how he stood like a whatever, right? His stance. Chip Kelly already changed it.
Yep, already changed it. Yep. See, I think so. That was an interesting. I saw that video. I saw an interview with him about it, and Chip Kelly sold it to him as like, if you're playing basketball, this is how would you guard me? Blah 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 blah. Well, that's how you gotta stand. Now, my thought process is, if you're standing next, if it's about timing probably for Chip Kelly, and he feels,
of course, everything is rhythm with him.
And he feels like you probably take a false step if you don't.
Correct.
Stand. But then the question is, this is my question, and I don't know the answer. My question is, does a really good athlete who's been doing it a certain way that way,
Why would you change him?
has he figured out how to adapt that he always is on time?
I would compare Dave to a guy who shoots a certain way and he's already in the league and he's averaging 25 points a game, and now all of a sudden you're going to change his shot.
Have you ever watched Larry Bird shoot?
That's fucking ugly as hell.
He just for a long time people were like, why should he would just use flick the elbow and the wrist,
flick his wrist, dude. It's all L. It's like a giant L, right? I was always taught it's elbow in L, and bam, you have to flick your wrist like you're waving goodbye to it at the top, right? And every time you can do this, and if you can get consistent with it and then just add that, this hand just sits here on the side of the ball. But when you release, that comes off. That's only for like protection. That's how I was taught. I haven't worked on my jumper in a hot minute, but and I ain't saying I'm like whatever, but I like that stuff went in a lot, and that's how we were taught.
It was weird, right? They probably thought it was weird because he didn't use a lot of legs, right?
What was different was I was taught the further out you get, the less you jump, right? So if I'm shooting a 3, I'm not trying to be at my max vertical while I'm extending here, right? Like it's lesser and it's more here and drive up through your legs. That's just how I was. He was like behind his head. Yes. Yeah. So, and my middle school coach was big Larry Bird guy, right? And it was, but we were always taught the proper way to shoot, but ultimately as you matured and as you figure like your strength came with it and all that kind of stuff, like you developed your own little whatever you had. Absolutely. And that's what and they were like, look, you roll with that. Like we're always going to teach you the proper way, the technique and all that stuff. Like kind of just like, look, I kind of look at it too like a receiver, right? Like your stance, I'm going to teach you a stance, but ultimately I want you to be as comfortable as you can out there. And you got it. Like I'm going to tell you when to do certain things, but you got to be able to do you, because again, players make plays. That's what it is.
You watch Ray Allen. When Ray Allen shoots a 3, he jumps, shoots. Like it's
look at Michael Jordan's shots.
They would jump, like
Vince Carter.
Jump. That's hard to do. To jump high and shoot.
Damn right. Look, jumping high is hard to begin with anyway, right? Like
I would watch people try to replicate Ray, and I'm like,
Ray is ridiculous. Ray is absolutely ridiculous. Just watch the movie He Got Game, dude, and I just love watching him just back shot.
Maybe
he's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite of all time, dude. He really is, no doubt.
Like,
just
because you had all the gifts that Ray had, like he's sleek, he could jump well, he's not too bulky as far as.
No, he's kind of lean.
He's lean,
kind of skinny.
He fits like if you were to say, okay, the person that would give you the best looking shot. That would be the kind of build, you know what I mean? Like his build.
Absolutely.
Because the muscles don't get in the way of a great looking shot or anything like that. But it was not that he wasn't built. Like he was still built. He was
still ripped.
He was big, but he wasn't like, basketball players are skinny, but they're thick. They're not. He wasn't like.
You've seen the bodies change though.
They're huge now. They're huge guys.
Like, dude, look at. Anybody that looks at LeBron, and now look, you could say there's a little bit of maturity aspect there as he got older and whatnot, but even look at LeBron when his body changed, it was the same years where he would have been coming out of college to go into the pros, right? Like that's when his body transformed from almost that like little bit of like, baby fattish, maybe not as ripped shit, and then ultimately took that off-season trading stuff onto a whole different level. And now, look, there's a reason the guy's been able to play. The longevity is absolutely like unbelievable, asinine craziness, right? Like for him to be playing that long at still a high level at that size, like you're thinking about him toting around all that muscle and all that stuff for that long. Like that's a really long time, dude. Like MJ tried to like hang around.
He's older than you.
He's a year older than me. He was a senior when I was a junior in high school.
Like think about if you were like playing football still now. Could you do it?
Like when I was a sophomore football? No. I mean, you know what? Honestly, if
Well, it depends on what role you were doing, I guess.
correct, like if I'm just like, what I think too, like the what these guys have access to in terms of recovery stuff or training,
when you're making that money
and all those things, like I think that's incredible, and I love that part of the game too. Like when I look at that, like, all right, like the Tom Brady stuff, the food and the nutrition stuff, and all like everything encompassing to get your body rocking like it can be, and then ultimately, though, like you still have to go play the game at a high level,
right?
So you can eat all whatever kind of fake ice cream and all that shit you want. You can go into as many ice baths, or you know what I mean, or like your acupuncture. But I find that stuff fascinating. And I'll tell you what, it would have been awesome to feel a lot healthier, right? I mean,
I know.
Think about like, that's what I'm saying. Like, think about it. Like, we used to do those things and then like just shut off soreness or whatever, or fight through a little bit of pain or injury or whatever. When, you know what I mean? Like now these guys can like really hone in on, I mean, there's no doubt I'd have been sleeping in like a hyperbaric chamber. I'd have been doing like all that crazy stuff, because ultimately to me, like, when you ask, like Coach just talked about, asking that question, like, do you love football? Like, you love it to that level. That's not a sacrifice. That's just what you do. That's your way of living. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have really dove into all of those kind of things to kind of like get my head coach always says this, and I think it's phenomenal. It's like, you have to be the best that you can be, right? Like, so if you're like as strong as you can be, then that's it, right? And it might not be someone else. Like you might be not benching what anybody else, but for where you've come from, and if that's all you can give, then I'm okay with that, as long as you do it, right? Like the thing that gets me is always guys that have so much more and like they just don't do it, right? Like, oh, whatever, or it's oh, okay, yeah, like they don't love it to that level. I think that's a big. They say they do, Dave, right? Like,
yeah.
Coach, what do you mean? Like, I go to extra training. I do this. I do like, but they're the first ones to be like, why do I have to do this exercise? Like, if you're complaining about those things, then you don't love it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just
football, me. Sports in general, actually, there's I love to play the game. And then I love to do what is to make myself the best.
Well, I love what the game does for me.
Right. Like, so, well, I think there could be people like, I mean, at the high school level that do all those things because they like to get to game day. You know,
of course.
Kids that want to play in college, but
no, they just like knowing they can walk around on Friday with the jersey.
No, but I'm saying they'll do all the work that you ask them to do. But maybe just be, they're nice, they're good kids because they know they're going to start in varsity and they like playing on Saturday or Friday night. So they like the actual game aspect, but are not like, hey, this is what I want to be.
This is my life.
Right. Then there are kids that are like, you know what? Listen, everybody loves the game aspect more than anything. Who doesn't? Right.
Oh, God. Who doesn't love game day? If you don't love game day, then you're really doing something.
Yes. But you have to embrace the development part of watching yourself get better. So game day is even more enjoyable. And those people are the people that I think have a much better chance. Like, but kids who are going to always look for a shortcut.
Always.
They're going to be limited. Well, you're limited to your talent level, I guess, to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're going to eventually find someone that is as talented that is going to outwork you, and they're going to beat you when you face them. So that's 100%. The hardest thing for kids to understand.
Right. Is that at some point you're going to meet your match, and the hard work aspect is going to put that, like if you're even, the hard work is going to win. If you're even, right? Now, look, there's just going to be some guys that are just, it doesn't matter. They could give zero effort and they're still above you. Like, that's just how it is, right?
And like if you work hard, as people are seeing now because of the newer training methods and things, you can maybe jump a level
Correct.
let's say you're a 4, you could go be a 5, or
Yes.
you're a 3, you could go be a 4. Maybe
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe some of these newer training methods, maybe you could jump 2 levels, but
Maybe.
I don't know if you can. But if you're a 5 and you don't work that hard, you become a 4, and now people can pass you, right? So that's
100%.
that's the whole thing. And I think that kids who don't love it, if they're a 5, they become a 4. And then what happens is they're out of the sport pretty quickly, even if they make it to the college level, because they can't handle the fact that people who they might deem less talented than them are kicking their ass. And that's hard for them.
They lose their mind. They don't understand why. It's like, look, it's like that kid that was really good in middle school, and now by sophomore year, he ain't that guy anymore, and guys are catching him, and because he's just always been good and hasn't had to work or be pushed to that level, like he's done what he's been told to do, but he hasn't taken it to that next, right? So now he starts getting frustrated, and it's a problem. Right. That's why I always say, like, sophomore to junior year is the biggest, most, like, that's where the jumps are really, really made. Right. And then, like, because you're coming out of that still, like, freshman is still a little middle schoolish in terms of puberty and all those kind of things. But once you get to, like, post freshman year, right, to sophomore and then sophomore to junior, like, that's where you start to see guys either look like, oh, wow, this is too much of a commitment, I don't like it. They quit, or they go do something else, or they get, maybe the other sport starts to take over, and now football just kind of goes on the back burner. Okay. How many guys you hear like, oh, he used to play. He played freshman year. Oh, he played this, like, it's really hard to take a freshman class and work them all the way through with the same numbers.
It's interesting when I started doing this, some of these QB breakdowns. So I remember people were like, "Oh, is Walker Snead really that good?" Right? Well, we did his breakdown yesterday.
He's a freak, bro.
He's unbelievable.
When are you doing Merriman?
I'm getting around to, like, I'm bringing in one of those kids, and they have a couple people that like yesterday we did a kid from Texas who is a grade below Walker Snead, which is what, 7th. Kid was unbelievable. I don't know if he's
the class of 20. So 20 right now.
29. He's 2029.
Right,
Steve's
that's
2029. 7th is 2030. So it's 2028 is freshman. I know it gets weird as you get older. These numbers, like when you're like,
I have them. Look, I write them.
I still stuck at what 2013s were.
I literally write them on a Post-it. I write them on a post. I write the years. I write them and I stick them right to the wall every year so I remember it. And then guys like a rising freshman. I'm like, what? I don't like. Why would you? What is that? Is that an 8th grader going into freshman year? Is a rising freshman 9th grader going into 10th? Like, that shit confuses the hell out of me. I'm like, just tell me what year they are, and I'll stick it in my brain.
Right, exactly, because because we're class and all that kind of jazz too.
Correct.
Because Rivera's a 2029, right?
Yeah, he's in 8th grade going into freshman year. Like, he will be a freshman.
Walker Snead, so is Merriman.
Yeah, they're all that class. Dude, that class is stacked.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Dave, that it's ridiculous. And then that other class that's right above them. Right,
I did a kid.
You have what's his name? The Talafay. Trey, the kid Trey.
Talmadge?
Not Talmadge. No. Talafagni. Where is he? He's the one that's at Bergen right now. He's a freshman. Then you have the Del Barton kid. That's a freshman. Like, those kids are studs too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very I don't know that New Jersey's had 3 8th graders that are like this level of ability.
And they're already in a national light.
Level.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they already, and now whether that's the social media market as it is, whether it's, the camp
Well-
cycle. That's like a different thing. I think it's a combination of a lot of it, but also these dudes are really good.
So I started watching like the kid who's the number 1 2030 kid who was from Georgia, maybe? He's from Georgia.
Probably. What did you use? 247? Do they even rank him that
I
low?
think it was no. It was QB hit list that had him number 1. I did his, and he was.
Yeah, like what are you going off of to use rankings? Like what do you?
I just say I saw it from this group. You know, there's multiple different sites that rank people, so you know I take that kind of as a
yeah. 247 only does up to 2028.
I take it as a grain of salt. You know what I mean? But I'm looking at the film. Like this kid was awesome, and he kind of is almost a man already. And then,
well, I'm sure,
right? How could you be that awesome? And then there was another kid. The kid I just did yesterday was from Texas, 2030, and he was awesome. But you could see, I don't know. You could see Walker Schnee, although Walker Schnee's a class ahead of them. I don't know the age difference or not, but
and then some of these guys, like you know, I don't know. It's like it's crazy.
None of it means anything until they actually play in high school,
right? And also, like like these guys might be ranked. What are they ranked off of? Are like what middle school, like youth, like what are they doing? Why are they ranked off a camp where they're there just slinging it against shorts and a t-shirt? Are they ranked off tape?
I think it's both. But if you watch Walker's tape, now mind you, this is the thing that's hard about when you look at like 8th and 7th grade.
Like who the fuck are they?
Some kids are way more developed than other kids, right? Like so, you see his receivers. Some of them look like little kids still. You know, like
I guarantee it. Is this the kid you did? Who's it? Kellen? Like what? This is a 2030 kid.
Who?
Kalen Morgan, 2030, number 1 QB in the class of 2030. Kellen Morgan Ridner.
What's his Twitter handle? That's the only way I can know.
Well, his Insta is KAL_RIDNER5.
These kids I talked to them on Twitter.
Okay.
So I did. Let's see here. It was. I'll tell you right now. Last week I did Neve. This kid's awesome. He's from Georgia. Neve, Neev Bolkin. 3-sport athlete. Like I love when
see that's the big stuff, dude.
Watch
like when you're getting that.
Yeah, watch him. He's good. And then obviously Walker Schnee's good. And then I did Rivera the week before. I did yesterday. Not yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I did I'll tell you who I did. It was I just want to say his name right. I think this is how you say it. Osser Emmanuel, 2030, 5'11", 140, 13-year-old. He's a 3-sport athlete, also baseball, basketball, football, and he's from Conroe, Texas. He's already got a 9-inch hand and a 14 shoe. See, that's what they put in at those ages, right? But if you watch him, like hit a baseball, and then you watch him like that's what I like to watch with those kids, you know, because not just obviously their film is obviously important, but I like to see like what kind of athlete is this kid? You know what I mean?
See, I just think it's really hard unless the guy, like that's great. Like these guys can go out and they can sling it, and we can watch tape and they can do all this stuff, but like unless like once they hit high school, and look, they might look good at a camp or look good 7-on-7, right? But if now once you hit high school and you're, you know, are you the starter, right? Like what's your high school team?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you're not, that's fine too. But like, I'll really give you a ranking once you're a sophomore. Like once you get like post sophomore year, now I feel like if you're playing and doing that stuff, like now I got some really good tape on you. Like we should be good to go. And now like your ranking is worth like what it actually says. up until then, like, I don't know. I just don't
Well,
really buy into it.
Julian Lewis was a starter in 8th grade. On
Right,
varsity.
just like Sony Michel was too when he was at American Heritage. He rushed for 1,000 yards as an 8th grader.
And then he went to another school, and then he was a starter as a freshman. Because I think this town he was originally in was, and then he started as a freshman and then just 4-year starter. But it's although I feel he reclassed up, he didn't. That's right. He reclassed up, so he finished. He was reclassed, but then he reclassed back to his original class.
Yeah.
But it's you could see what you can see is if they can move, they can throw, and if they could throw certain throws.
Oh yeah.
That's not going to change. When I see
look, it's all like yeah, but does that throw change if there's a guy running through his face?
Absolutely, it absolutely does. But it's but I can see the arm strength on a like some of these guys are throwing deep outs at like 8th grade. Like it's crazy.
But think about it. Think about by the time by the time Troy gets to that, he's gonna have been throwing. Think about right? Like his arm strength is going to be so built up. He'll be able to hit an 18 to 16 yard comeback by the time he's a freshman on a dime, no doubt.
But there are a lot of kids that now are doing it. So that's the interesting change. So if when you were coming out of high school, that would have been
an amazing thing.
That would have been an amazing thing. But there's a lot of kids now playing at a younger age, throwing. I'm not talking about, in our area. Maybe there's only a few in our area. But I'm saying
I totally get what you're saying.
Around
100%.
the country.
Yeah, it balances it out.
Right. So there's a lot of kids that'll be able to throw. That's
why he needs to go play safety.
Oh, well, he does play safety. He does play safety 7-7 all the time. And and in flag, which I like, he plays although he did play safety, I guess, a little bit in flag too. But he was playing corner and safety. The flag, I was like kind of anti-flag, and
now
I
you're
kind
all
of
in.
I'm not all in. I think there are negatives to flag, but I see more of the things that are positive about it now. Like I see, like when you take away the coaches and all that kind of stuff, I'm talking about the game. Like, like they're having a damn good time out there. Like they really are. Like the kid who's going to be your starter on varsity but may not play in college, right? That kid can keep playing flag and have a good time and have a real positive aspect to football all the way through his youth because he's not completely disadvantaged by some guy that's super fast, right? Like, so it keeps him in the game, I think, a little bit better.
Yeah, but do they understand that they're just like, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like this is
mirrors thing. No doubt. There's no doubt. There's a smoke and mirrors. Like I see big guys make plays in flag. You know what I'm saying? Like catching. They're probably some of them are going to be linemen, obviously, right? So I agree. There's a smoke and mirror. Listen, 7-on-7. There's no smoke and mirrors. You can watch, and you can be like, dude, that guy's not going to play DB anyway, right? Like he's going to have to be a linebacker. You know what I mean? You could watch. Then you could watch another kid, and you'd be like, okay, you know what? This is like he's going to have a better chance here because it's all about speed. And that's why each one of these are really different sports. They just all hopefully feed the tackle, but they're really different sports. But I guess if you were to say like a predictor of who has a better chance at, I don't know, corner, let's say, probably 7-on-7 is going to be a better predictor than flag. Right. But as far as keeping people in football. Yeah.
Does it only just like,
I don't know.
Wouldn't you like, look, to me, I don't know. Like I think it could go to like one or two ways. Now that's either good and keeps them in the game and does whatever. And then, but now like, do they now transition to high school and it's like,
This ain't no fun
Damn, like,
anymore.
oh shit, like this sucks. I'm done.
I think it definitely is an oh shit because flag, dude, like you could really, and you know this because you're coaching girls flag. If you have some practices and you got wristbands, and you have a system, that's easy for them to implement. You could probably do pretty good with,
hell yeah,
get away with not working the same way that you would in tackle. Let me put it like that.
100%.
Whereas in tackle, like if you don't practice and put in the work, like your skill level at tackling is going to be low. Your skill level at blocking is going to be low. Your skill level at catching in traffic and running the ball in traffic.
Just think about the amount of time that high school coaches have to put in year round now to just having to keep up with what everybody else is doing.
Just to be okay. Right.
Maybe okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
because talent obviously dictates some of that in your line.
100%. But like, dude, think about that. Is that crazy?
Yeah, and that's why flag. But like, I could tell you this because like, I try to like see what kids react to. Like, we walk in the Shake Shack, and yesterday, in what's on the NFL Network, the Flag Football Youth Championships.
Yep.
Have you seen the Tackle Youth Championships on the NFL Network? No, you have not.
No, what have you seen? The show Friday Night Tykes, which shows the negatives, which shows the worst shit, right? Like that's where I'm going with this. So no wonder people don't want to play tackle. This is what we're showing.
We're showing beauties of flag on NFL Network.
What was the thing I said to you the other day? Like with flag, the NFL supports flag.
It does. I wonder why. See, well, I did read
liability.
I read the philosophy of
liability.
No, I read the guy who's Goodell's right hand man. I forgot his name. Played it for the Eagles. Was a really good player. Anyway, Troy Vincent. Yes, here's my son's name. How can I forget? So I went in and met with him years ago. Like when NUC was like running a bazillion events, obviously all these different organizations were calling me in. The NFL brought me in, and I met with him about everything, and we had a good conversation. But what was interesting, I saw an article couple of years ago when they were talking about flag and blah, blah, blah. And Troy Vincent said at the end, I don't know if this, by the way, I don't believe this to be true, but this is what he said. He said that at the NFL level, we're always going to get that top 1% of the 1% of the 1% that want to play in the NFL because of the I guess maybe financial gains. But obviously with NAL, that's changed a little bit. But because you can make more, you could be the Vanderbilt quarterback and make $1 million, and you're never going to be an NFL star. Like he's a great college.
You don't even have to go there.
Right. I mean, he's going to be whipping around in the arena league, at 5'10".
Right. And that if he even wants to. Otherwise, he'll just
take the money and go do something else. Yeah, exactly.
100%. Just go do. I'll just use my name, image, and likeness. That's it. Maybe he just goes and does that. Like that's. Absolutely.
I'm not saying he won't be on maybe a roster for a year or two, but he's not going to be long. He just doesn't have all those.
It's not your answer long term.
Long term, right? So, but that response is interesting because that tells you the support they have for NFL flag is that they truly believe that the cream will rise to the top. They'll get those guys
no matter what. They'll always get it without even having to do any work.
Let's support what gets us fans.
Right. Because ultimately, where does the money? Like, it's about putting asses in seats.
Correct. And gambling.
Now gambling is huge, big time now. Like, and now because it's out in the open, right? Like, you used to have to do whatever to do that stuff. Now, not so much. You can literally, you could be on 7 different freaking sites, and as long as you're in a state that supports it, I don't even have to leave my chair.
Right. So gambling is a big part of it, and so you want fans. You want people that like fantasy is a big part of it. You want people that want to engage, whether they're there or not, on Sundays
Correct.
with the NFL.
Absolutely.
And
100%. Dude.
Flag 100% makes fans of football for all people because everyone
can partake.
Anyone, dude. Me and you could roll out our old asses and go find some league and do something in flag. Okay. All right. And because there's not the level now. If we wanted to go and play tackle, that would be a conscious decision that you're going to be in bad shape pretty much by the first quarter. In the first quarter,
it's really going to hurt.
It's going to hurt, right? But flag, you could go and do something, something on it, right? And I see it every weekend down the block, where there's, I call it the 37U. They're all out there playing, and
get after it.
They're getting after it, dude. They're getting after it. Good for them, But that's what flag does, and I think that's what makes it hard for tackle coaches because you see this. I see it. It's all over my feed. This is that
your algorithm, brother.
Is that Friday Night Tykes thing now back on TV or something? Is that why?
No, I just think it
I saw it all on my algorithm.
Well, I'm just saying, I think there's always just like some random clip that like gets pulled up or whatever. And then it's like, then once it hits an algorithm, it's, you just go through it back and forth and then it just hits. And then like, I don't know, just people. And then people think that's like current. That could be like 10 years ago.
That's the only thing you don't know. Right. There's something I know. There's sometimes I have to look.
But like sometimes sometimes I'm like, wait, what happened? And then I'm like, oh shit, this is like 10 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay,
so I don't know. It's interesting.
John Otterstedt, remember John used to do the Rivals. He was the Rivals guy for New Jersey. He sent me a text this morning. I posted it on Instagram, but it was funny. He goes.
I saw it. Chat GBT.
Yeah, he's like, I had to send this to you. I was like, I said, how the hell does Chat GPT even know that stuff? That's what I don't understand. Isn't that like freaky? Like that somehow they know from going through the whole internet and like
because it just has access to scan everything.
The world.
So like where we used to have to like take a book and go through page by page to find what we were looking for, like, and then go to another book and look at page for page to get the same shit. This thing just done. Whoa, that's what we were talking about. The speed, dude.
My brain, I think I'm a pretty smart guy, but my brain can't move as fast as everything that's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like
need time to process.
What's amazing is how like there are obviously beyond exceptional brains in this world, like Elon Musk and other guys like him. I watched.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, dude.
Well, I watched, dude. This is crazy. If you could pull it up somewhere, you'll enjoy it. Actually, it was a 60 minutes segment on the guy's last name is Lucky, Lucke. He's a billionaire. You would never know who he is. He was the guy who invented. What was it? He made his money from. Oh, I know. Oculus. These things.
Yep, the virtual whatever. Yep.
He sold it to Facebook for like $1 billion or whatever, multiple billion. And then he was like in his 20s. Okay, I mean, can you imagine being that smart? I can't. So he then.
I just can't imagine just in general, bro. Like I just can't imagine having money in general.
Well, I mean, listen, he hit it. Like, I mean, he's no different than anybody else. It's just that he's smart and that he figured out something where there was a market, right? And he hit it. So then he was trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Like he's a billionaire. Like, I'm 20 XYZ years old. Like, what am I gonna like? He doesn't have to do anything, right? So he's like, let me take my money and build another company and a thing that he thought was a need, right? And his thing was to update the weaponry of the United States with to make it more like smart with AI and all that kind of stuff. You can't believe, you got to watch this 60-minute segment. You can't believe the shit that he's come up with. This guy, basically what his thing was. People are like, why weaponry? Like, he's like, if you want to take out the target without killing all the people around it, he's like, you have to learn to have AI to fight wars. If you want to fight wars without killing mass amount of peoples, eventually you're going to have to learn to have AI weapons. Dude, you can't that do it. So he has these weapons that target specific areas and obviously minimize losses and all these kind of things. And but it's crazy. Like, what's crazy is that just how crazy these drones are, and they could shoot down, like, if a missile was coming, you know what I'm saying? They would shoot it and incinerate it. You know what I mean? Like, so there wouldn't be like collateral damage and all this kind of crazy. Like, you have to, if you can find it, it's very, very interesting. Like, just the level of things that people are doing. It's mind blowing. It's so mind blowing that if you think about it, like 9/11 that happened, which was obviously a horrible event, that was like a very rudimentary type of warfare, right? When you went to Afghanistan, that was only 24 years ago, you know, and now
you're fighting war is not even close to what we talked about. I mean, like, or what we've seen in anything like this new. It's not even shooting each other with guns, you know, or sword fight, or like, it's just not physical at all. It's some guy.
They're trying to get him away. They're trying to get away from guys like Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, is physical still. They're fighting with old weapons, right?
Different, you know what I mean? But now it's like, hey, I'm just gonna go poison somebody's water.
Well, that's a whole different biological weapon.
It's just so fucked, dude.
Well, that's if you want to. That's what he's trying to get.
There's a new little thing on Netflix too about catching Osama bin Laden. It's really good.
I watched the first 2 episodes of it.
Yeah, me too.
It's pretty good.
I think Jen has this like this really, like, you know, I don't know. My wife's not into any of that kind of stuff, but she, like, 9/11 is like, holy shit. Like, she becomes a CIA agent, which is phenomenal to see her actually care about something like that, which is awesome. It's just kind of funny. It's not funny at all, but it's like, really, yeah, Jen? No, like, this is what you perk up about? Like, she's like, well, we were just in high school and it was like such a weird thing, and I remember the day, and it just goes into the whole. I'm like, she's like, wait, we knew about this guy for like 30 years before? I was like, yeah. Like,
his family was the rich Saudi family.
Said he was loaded. He had more money than whatever. He was living in a cave.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. The 9/11. What I thought was really interesting, I've only seen the early episodes, but how Bush chose the CIA guy to run his, like, operation. That was an interesting.
And the fact that the only reason they even knew anything was because they started to track, like, they found out, like, who's his right-hand man. Like, and that's right. Who they started
the movement of, like,
like, oh, this guy goes here to here to here to ding to ding to ding. Like, and think about that.
One girl, is the girl they're interviewing, the blonde? Is that the girl from the girl who?
I think, yeah, that's the movie.
The movie Zero Dark 30 or whatever.
Great movie.
Dude, that movie. She is a fucking. She's unbelievable. That girl. Like, the person who plays her in that movie, I think she won the Academy Award.
Oh, I love her too. She's great too. Like, what was that? She was in another movie too, where she was like a poker chick or something.
Yes. Is that the movie with Brad Pitt in them when they're all playing?
No. That's Rounders. That's another good one.
Rounders is good.
Rounders is great. No, this is like, I think it's like something loose, maybe like Lucy something. I don't know. I think she plays like this poker whatever person, but she's really good too. But I had read that book. Right.
Oh, you read? Yeah.
I read the book. Yeah, and I'm like, damn, this is crazy. And it was like she had to fight for that, like, because everybody was like, you're like, you don't know. And she's like,
that's her? Is that her? That
I think so. I don't know, but like,
I'm not sure.
Note, like somebody in the CIA looks like that. Like, god damn. Like, oh my goodness.
They plucked her out of college, dude. Although I thought in Zero
All
Dark
of those
30,
women that were interviewed.
I thought they plucked her out of high school in Zero Dark 30. I couldn't remember.
Just the fact that those women wanted to even go into that field,
dude.
like that was so cool to me.
How does the CIA? All right, how about this? How does the CIA know who the geniuses are that might be the right profile to take the job, right? Because you could have a genius, you could, if you went up to Bill Gates and say, "Hey, Bill, we'd like you to be," like he would say, "No, like that's not his." You know what I'm saying? They not just know who the geniuses are, but somehow they must know from family background or something or whatever.
I don't know. I also think that there's a certain level of like whatever that goes into that. Like you can't just be a brainiac or just like a book like you got to have a little like
savvy.
And if you notice, all of those like all of them had pictures where they were like in the field, dude.
How about the fact
they were
that
out there like doing it?
She said it was her. They liked that she was in charge of sorority, and her job was to throw the girls out that were acting up and doing things they weren't supposed to do, and that level of leadership they thought would translate. How did they know that? Is that amazing? I think it's amazing.
It's like when you're looking at it, I literally had this conversation with a couple guys. Like, when's the last time you saw like a true leader or captain? Like,
oh, I mean, like you're coaching, kids you're coaching.
Like
a really like take shot, like
across the board, like all sports. Like, because I have guys that coach multiple sports, male, female, like every single one of them kind of came down with it. Like they like there's guys that have been, scholarship, whatever, like they were leaders, they weren't captains, right? But like almost every single one of them, I'm like, look, like give me like a window, like last 10 years. Like that's where they were struggling at. Like, I don't know if I've seen one in 10 years. And if they did give an answer, it was a female.
Who did we have? I don't remember. See, I don't even remember who we had as we must have had Owen as a captain. Or did we go?
Owen, Parseghian.
Game captain. No, we went. Owen, Parseghian. Chambo was pretty good. Owen was pretty good.
Yeah, I think but I'm just saying like even that like but I said they think about it like when is like when you look
at a great one. They were really good in their own right, but
I'm talking like an overall. Look, I think back, I didn't have the last time I had a true one was probably and people are gonna be like, well, no shit, like at right, and it was a kid, right, and I'm just telling you, like he was a leader as a junior. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he didn't even play college football. But he is now like the DC. We've had him on the show, Spencer Scannell. Like, he's the last true captain where he towed the line of like, this is my team, right? Like, you guys listen to what I say. I'm not an asshole about it. To tell you when you screw up or whatever, but also have that respect factor where he could tell the coaches like, yo, that's not working, or like, hey, we need to do something. You know what I mean? Like that bridge of where it was, and then ultimately have every kid's respect. Like they didn't like you're talking guys that went, guys that are in the NFL now, listen to him. I don't know. It's really tough for me to find one since. And that's not a knock on any of the ones. Because look, like Liam Anderson, he was a great captain too. Like he was probably the next one that I had that was somewhat of that. But, because he played 3 other sports, it was hard for him to get like the control of like the younger guys where like, they all looked up to him because like he was the best player. But sometimes it was like, well, he's not even here when we're all doing, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. But he would be my next one that was like right there.
Interesting. I'm trying to think when
like it's hard, dude. Like Indian Hills, anybody? Like I had to go through it by team.
Indian Hills, no. They were good kids. They were these decent captains, but nobody. Old Japan when I was an assistant when we lost in the state championship.
Like, it's really hard, man.
I think there was a lot of good leaders. Was there an elite leader on that team? I don't know if there was an elite leader on that team. Maybe our center, Cravani, who coaches now at Johns Hopkins. I would say I'd say he was the closest. Before that, I was at Powell Park. There's one kid who I would say to me who started for 4 years. So there were two guys that they were close, but I think they were both missing one thing in each of them. Like together, they had that superpower. You know what I'm saying? But individually, like one was the toughest kid in the team. Would tell people what was up. Would talk to me all the time. I mean, he came to my Hall of Fame thing.
Right. I think that's what you need. I think now, like a lot of these guys adopting like leadership, like leadership councils where like there's a happy conversation.
Have, councils, yeah. Like
I don't know if it's something.
But I'm saying you're talking about everything in one guy, like one guy that has everything. So the time I've been coaching, now obviously I've taken over some doozies, but I would say most of the time it was a level by. I'll give you the one who had everything. I had one in my history. I only got to coach him 2 years. I had one because he was a captain as a sophomore. Steve Boharnis.
I was just gonna say.
He's the one, and I didn't get to coach. I could only imagine what he was like when he was at the senior year at St. Joe's. Like he was probably just. Their team was great too. He must have been unbelievable as a leader. So I would say he was the total package. He could talk to you, and he even as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, as a sophomore, he was you could already see it. Like,
yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Like within the camps, all the camps you've done, have you seen guys where you're like, oh shit, he's a leader?
Taj Boyd, no doubt. Taj Boyd was no doubt like. Every coach that has worked with me at our camps, at least that were early years, if you ask Taj Boyd, if you ask Drakeford, he would probably, Taj Boyd, I remember that. Yeah, like, and they coach different positions, but they'll all remember him. They'll all remember him. Like we all when we all went to, I don't know if Drakeford came with us to Texas or not. But when we all for FBU helped run their thing 1 year, and like when we were in the early years, but we had gotten big already. Taj Boyd played in the All-American game. Taj Boyd, he's the only guy I really remember ever doing this. We were just becoming big. Like we probably had 50 or 60 events. When he first came, we had like 15 events, maybe, Taj Boyd seeked us out after the game to take a picture with all of us. I was shocked. Like,
there you go.
He came to a handful of camps. It wasn't like he was like, it wasn't like we were with him all year round. Like, that's who he was. Tyrod Taylor. I knew his father pretty well. It was a long time ago, obviously, but he was like that. I would say he was pretty darn like. He was so mature. I was
and look, he's still in the league, Dave. Like he's still in the league.
Yep. Those two stick out. I'm trying to think who obviously a lot of these guys came to their camps. I was at a lot of them, some of them I weren't at. I would say another guy that stuck out to me was
but I just think that's really cool.
Collins. You remember him? Landon Collins.
Who's that?
Landon Collins.
Hell yeah, safety.
Yeah. He stuck
Giant
out
guy, really.
He stuck out to me as and he won a lot of awards. And obviously it's going to be a guy that we know that wins stuff, but he stuck out to me as a guy who was really, really like.
That's cool though.
Had all of all the features. Like if the guy Dowdy, who worked a lot of camps, and Barry Harris, who's from Englewood, worked a lot of camps when he was going through it, and you say Landon Collins, they would just be like, oh yeah, Landon
Be like,
Collins.
oh yeah.
Like we used to come out of the drills because Landon was big. He was
he was a big dude.
So he would come out of the cornerback. He was a safety, but he would come out of the skill portion and everybody. I would always be like, oh, Landon's skills are good, but like there were DBs that had maybe quicker feet.
Yeah.
But they would immediately say,
he's the guy.
He's already the guy. Like
this ain't even close.
We just started drills. He's first in line. He gets everybody lined up. He tells everybody. That for me
is a part. Like a lot of guys can fake it, right? Like, yo, coach said get in line, whatever. And then, but does he only do that to the underclassmen? Like, is he willing to do that to guys that are equal with him, right? You know what I mean? Like, does he do it like in a way where guys actually like listen? It's not just, or does he get the fuck you, bro? Who are you? Right? Like, no. And then if somebody gets that, how do they de-escalate that?
Yeah,
right?
So
I'm just trying to get you right.
Now, one of the things that like there is some like physical presence to it too. Like,
of course, dude, he's a monster.
He was at 16. He was built like a man.
Hell yeah, dude, a brick shit.
He came over to go first in line. I don't think anyone was like cutting him, But he just kind of had a calm. Not that he was calm, but like he had a presence about him. And then when you would get into the gameplay though, and he started like running the defense in 7-on-7. Or taking charge with one-on-ones and getting guys like pumped up, but not artificially. He would be like, "Yo, let's go."
Yeah, like you know how guys are fake. They fake that.
They're artificial, Now I don't even know. Some kids I don't say are fake. I think they tried to figure it out. Like I think sometimes kids are. I think
society now is really, really hard because it's like everybody. I don't know. It's just I just think. Like it's just like even discipline is so different now. Like and everybody asks why. Like doesn't matter. Like if a teacher tells you something, these kids still question it. Like there's no like I don't want to say respect, but there's no like they don't understand the level of authority in turn. Like everything is questioned, right? Like you see people question cops. Like, dude, what do you know what I mean? Like there's a level of like, well, we're all equal. Like, no, we're not all equal, bro. That person, like, no.
Who's the best leader I think that I remember in camps ever? And I think he's a high school coach now. Pretty sure he is. And he was from Texas. He was this kid, Drew Smith. He was a quarterback. And he was always he won like best quarterback a lot of times. He won like leadership a lot of times, but he was just amazing, not just with the players, but with the coaches. But what was interesting, his father was a coach, so he was really, really. I'm trying to think what Drew coaches now. He might be in college now, even. Drew Smith. He's 31. What? No, I can't. It's supposed to be a different. It's supposed to be a different guy. Nope, it is him. He is 30. Jesus, he's 31. So he did coach at D1. Okay, he's in Texas. So you follow him. He's great. He was unbelievable leader at events, and I'm not surprised. He coached at D1 for a while. He played in college. I don't know if I think he might have played FCS. And he's an offensive coordinator. That guy was a great leader. He was a quarterback too. It's interesting. Like what stands out now. Like I wasn't like when Johnny Manziel played in our All-Star game and he came to our showcases. Like he was at our showcases. I think he won an award or was second at the time, but he was quiet actually. Believe it or not.
Some guys are that way.
He was quiet.
Look, for us, like I can remember always like we always had like
He was a
probably
ball.
4 captains or whatever, but each guy like had their own like strength or weakness. Like you always had like a yeller type of guy. You had a guy that was real quiet and just action spoke, like did everything right. Like you could always see that the coaches were trying to balance out like who was whatever. But you got to college and it was totally like captains almost didn't mean shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like to me, captains didn't mean anything because it was so just not the same type of thing. Like, all right, you had guys that were captains, but I think almost every guy I played with was like captain quality in terms of that, right? Like there were like the entire offensive line could have been a captain for us, like in college. Like that would have been and it would have been real, right? Like, or our line, like a couple D line or line, like it was just different. Like, I don't know. It's just totally different.
In college, when they choose captains, I think sometimes they nail it. I think sometimes they don't have a feel for the team. The coaches, I mean, like they have a feel for the team, obviously, because they're coaches. But as far as like,
the locker room, dude, it's the locker room.
They don't because they don't know when you guys go eat and stuff. They don't know who people talk to really, because 100% one of the coaches, I think in college. Now it may be different now, I don't know, but when I played in front of the coaches, there were certain guys that put on a face. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Dude, they became something else. I'm like, dude, that's not who you are. Stop faking it for the coaches. Shut the hell up.
Yeah, right. What are you going to give them a Hummer after practice? Like
that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah. So sometimes coaches didn't. In high school, you have a feel for that because you're around them a lot more. In college, you're around them, and yes, you're around them with films and dinners and all that stuff. But
different. You can still put on a show.
Yes, because they want to play. They want to get on the field.
That's their focus of everything it is. See, that's why I think like in college for me, like that's what got me like I didn't mean it was just who I was, but like I can remember specifically like Neil Brown and actually Artie Asalta, who's the OC at Fordham right now. We had just finished up a film session. Everybody had left, and like chairs were pushed in, couple bottles like sitting right there or whatever, and like you always had to put the projector in a certain spot, right? Like everybody leaves the meeting room, and I'm like the only one still sitting there, and like I see all that, and I'm like, dude, I didn't think anything of it. I cleaned up all the bottles, pushed in all the chairs, and put the projector back. Dude, you guys were just sitting there, like just looking at me, and I'll never forget. My DC said, he goes, "That's why we recruited you," and I was like, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's what got me my shot. Just knowing that, like, that's what the shit, like, that's why you're here, is because we knew you were that type of kid based off of, like, everybody we talked to when you came here on your visit and we evaluated. Like, these were the little stupid things that, like, we want this program to stand on. You know what I mean? And that wasn't me being like, hey, if I clean up these bottles, like, coach is going to put me on kick return. Like,
but there were some kids that were like that, though. There were some kids that were like that.
Yep.
And sometimes some coaches could decipher the difference. Some coaches
can't.
They can't.
You're like, that dude's full of shit, bro.
Yeah. Listen, when and kids from my class will tell you this. And I remember when Vernon Hargreaves came over to me, because after they chose the captains, not the team that the coaches chose it. I was like, there's no way that those two kids were voted as captains, coach. I'm like, there's no way those guys.
Yeah, they're like, no, we played with the numbers.
They absolutely did, right? And I was like, because I hang out with all these guys all the time, and I would
like, I know this is.
I would never politic. I knew people who were politicking for captain and stuff like that. They were politicking. I would never ever do that because that would never I wanted to be. I didn't need you to be my friend so I could be captain. I wanted to be like genuine friends, but I knew that like there's no way the team would vote like that. There's no way. So because I hung out with everybody, and you could to this day, you guys would be like, you know. But when I knew it when Hargreaves came over to me, he goes, if you didn't have to sit out that year with an injury, you would have been captain. And I said,
you're like, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
I got it. So you guys fudged the voting. And Hargreaves felt bad. He was my coach. He was the linebacker coach, right? So you know, you talk to your coach a little bit more.
Of course.
And he probably saw my face like, like,
yeah, like that's full of shit.
It wasn't that they should have chose me. Okay.
No, it was just like you chose the wrong person.
Those guys were the guys you chose. Like those were, one of them I could see. The other one I was like, no guy in the team would have voted for that guy. Correct. So like, you got 5 votes. You know what I mean? And I love him to death. Like he was a friend of mine, but there's no way, dude. Have you seen him on a Saturday night? No way he would have got a vote. Like, and that's what. First of all, I knew that our senior year at that point was not going to be as good as it should be.
Yeah, you're like, this is going to suck.
It didn't affect me as a player because I was going to do everything I always was going to do anyway. It didn't matter to me. But when you're looking to sway guys, dude, I remember the first time we got in a whole thing in winter workouts, and some guys felt like they were being treated unfairly. And the seniors were in the seniors were in the group. And they say, Dave, can we ask you something? Yeah, they go and ask me something, right? This is why you have to choose, if you can, at least captains that people. It doesn't have to be you need to choose captains that are stable. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
So
and guys that get respected.
Yeah, yes, it got respected. So they're like, Dave, can we ask you a question? I see the group of them, like, and obviously I'm friends with them. I'm like, what? They're like, yo, so-and-so, blah, 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 but that whole thing. I said, just do whatever he tells you to do, dude. Like,
right.
Like, I mean.
Like, this isn't rocket science.
Like, but, I was a guy that would lead every sprint. You know what I mean? Like, if I could outrun the guys and lead in the sprint, I was trying to. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So, not that there weren't guys sometimes that were just faster. I can't catch that guy. But, I'm trying to lead, so I always thought that aspect of it was harder for college coaches. Now they might be with them more.
Maybe.
But I don't know. But now with transfer portal, I don't know. But I always thought that was hard for college coaches to decipher. And I think they try to maneuver it by taking the votes and then putting in who they want. But if they don't, like, I've seen years where they nailed it. Like the year before, I thought they pretty much nailed it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I thought my senior year, I thought they got one right and or possibly one right and the other one wrong. And my whole thing always, when I was going to become a coach, if I always thought about that process, I thought, why do you only have 2? Why don't you have 4 if you need to have 4? Why don't you have a?
Yeah. Why do you cap it?
Right. The coaches now all have committees, or if they don't feel like they have it, they have a committee. But and that goes to what you're talking about, because there's not as many maybe guys they feel can fill that role. But
right. That's what I think it is.
I agree with that. I do think that's back then in that era, and maybe when you were like, coaches were just like, okay, this is how many captains I have, and I'm going to pick these 2 or 3 or whatever it is. And it's hard. I think it's hard. I think that's why you see sometimes teams that are good not win. Like a team you think should be really good not win because they don't get the leadership aspect right. They might have the talent. Like my senior team had a lot of talent. I thought we lacked leadership. And I thought I thought that we lacked fortitude. That's a word that isn't used a lot, but like
never. Like you could, like you're not. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't you like any bit of it wasn't adversity.
Just adversity. It was fortitude, meaning like you had to adversity. I think we could overcome because like we were taught that pretty well. But fortitude was when overcoming adversity doesn't work. That's what I thought of it as. Like when you've overcome adversity, right? You're having a shitty game. You're having a shitty game. You overcome it. You figure it out, right? Fortitude was you're having a shitty game. You overcome it, and it's still not getting you where to need. Can you fight through that? I thought that when we fought through adversity and it didn't get us to where we need to, we lacked fortitude. The where we couldn't continue to figure out what exactly it took to get there in a tough spot. That's why we were ranked the number 8 team in the country and ended the season and like right outside the top 25 instead of being the number 8 ranked team in the country, where we started. So that to me is a team that underachieved, But the team before, absolutely. Our team before was 8-3. I think they won the conference or tied for that team. I think pretty much was in line with what they should have been able to do, right? Like you could win one more last year there, but was pretty much in line. And I think that's the difference. Like I think about teams you've coached that were good and when weren't. There were times when talent, if you don't have the talent, it does not matter. Like
doesn't matter.
I had good kids. It's just not enough talent, right? But when I had good kids that were good, the difference between a team being great and being good was the overall ability to do all those things, to lead, to overcome adversity, to be, have fortitude, and to be able to fight when it was like, I said to the 9-year-olds, Derek, it sounds crazy, but like we were down 12-0 in the semifinals. And honestly, almost every group of 9-year-olds, because we didn't have all of our studs there this weekend.
Right.
We had to pick up a couple of kids, you know what I mean, that don't normally play with us.
Yeah.
And they did a great job, by the way. But we had beaten the team in the early rounds, and then we played them again in the semifinals, and we were down 12-0. And I just thought, I'm curious. I'm curious what they're going to do. And I said, listen, we could keep fighting. We keep fighting. I'll tell you this. They came back. We lost 12-11. So I was shocked because there wasn't much time left. It's 7-7. There's 5 minutes left.
Yeah, it goes so fast.
You're down 12-0. You're probably losing, okay?
Oh, of course.
But is the team going to fight? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they could have easily the score could have just ended.
Yeah, you could have been done.
Right. They got to pick. Then they scored, got the 2-point conversion. So I was like, wow. Big. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's amazing that they came back and stacked 11 points. And then the game ended, right after that as the other team was coming back, to get the ball again. But it was over at that point. And I said to him at the end, I said, you know what? I said, man, that game could have gone.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Great job. That was you guys did a great job. You could have just said, forget this. I'm out.
You could have been like, we're done.
Most kids would do that. And
most kids would 100%.
I wouldn't even blame you for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because that's what most
you fought and you lost 12-11. That's as good as when you won the whole thing. When you had the guys and you were, you did what you were supposed to do when you had the guys there. So I think those are things that at the high school level and college, those are the
extremely overlooked, bro.
Yep, that's the difference between you having a chance to be great and just being like when you end the season, you're like, well, why were we just okay? Beyond the talent part, okay, we didn't have as much talent, but if we were 5-5, let's say, should we have really been 7-3 or 6-4? You know what I mean? Well, what was the difference between us being 6-4 and 5-5? That might have been the fact that we lacked a couple of these things, or 7-3 and 5-5. Could have easily been 7-3, but we weren't 3-7, which means we were kind of like shitbirds. You know what I'm saying? So we did 100%. Kind of what the middle of the road of it. How do we get out of being the middle of the road,
right,
and being 7-3 when our talent is 5-5, instead of being 5-5 when our talent is 5-5?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
You're not going to be a champion when your team. Right. If your talent level is 5-5, you're not going. This is the thing that people don't really understand. Like outside of coaching, people think, "Oh, you can take a 5-5 team and win a championship." It's not. I mean, it's so rare that happens.
Like maybe once in a blue moon.
Once, yeah, that's like the stories.
But that's also the problem is the stories you see are those like random outliers where like that like
a 5-5 team wins a championship.
You're like, damn, like, and then so and so made it from nothing to the league, and now it's like that's all. this is all we talk about. Like,
the truth is, a really great coaching job is your team is 5-5. Like at the beginning of the year, if you guys like had a realistic conversation and you said, what is our talent level really with our schedule? Oh, okay, we're 5-5. You know what? If this team could go 6-4 or 7-3, dude, that's a huge accomplishment. We don't tell them that, but we know that that's a huge accomplishment for our guys. Our goal is to win the whole thing, yes, but we need to know what a good accomplishment for our guys are, right? We need to know that. We need to know, like I was the first year at RBR, I don't know what the rest of the people were they thrilled or not, but I thought when we lost the best player and what they ended up accomplishing, I thought was
unbelievable.
Yes. I thought that was pretty awesome because that could have been an
Shit
off
show.
the rails thing. That could have been an off the rails thing. That could have been
absolutely.
I thought they did a great
like
job.
It could have went really bad, and they decided to like, all right, well, we're not going to let that affect us. Like, let's go.
They won the Manasquan game. They won the Central game in a walk-off. Those to me, like they won the Manasquan game
was fucking wild.
We won twice on kick returns. The Central. There's your argument for special teams. The Central regional game on a walk-off, and then David took the kickoff.
He took the whole game over. He took that whole game over.
That to me was like I felt really good about that job. COVID, I never felt good about it because I just thought the whole situation was you were in a bad situation. I just never felt good about the whole situation. And I don't know if that was I like that's the only time in my life as a coach that I take myself off the hook on it because what the hell are we supposed to do?
I'm pretty sure everybody should chalk that up to that type of
whether you had a great year or you didn't. Like that was a shit situation.
And look, and if you did, like I'm sure that there were certain things that went into that in terms of like your district let you do this and we couldn't do that. You know what I mean? There's just so many outliers within that I think it was, you know what I mean? Like if that makes sense.
And the one time I think that I wish if I were to look back at my coaching career, I wish I could have got it right was the team after the team that went to the state championship. That team was 7-0, murdering everybody by like 40 points or 30 something points a game. And the whole season we battled with those kids because they were the younger group. They were the juniors to the team that had the better leadership, the seniors, but they were the talented kids. They were the you catch a slant, go to house. They had those kind of kids in that group.
Right.
So they never had to really go to the forefront.
Yeah.
And then they had to, and I thought they were good, but they could not. I thought they overcame adversity. They did all those things because that's how they got to that point. But the fortitude was the hardest thing for them to handle.
Absolutely.
And they were because the team before them had the fortitude. That team had it. The next team was, man, we would sit there and be like, do these kids know at some point? Like we're trying to convince them so they understand it. At some point, they're going to meet a team as talented as them, and what's going to happen when they meet a team as talented as them? And it turns out that was the league championship against Hasbrook Heights. The year before, we upset Hasbrook Heights, who was definitely better than us, and we beat them. And because that team had the talented younger guys, and then they had the seniors who were like, "We're not losing this damn game," you know?
Yeah, which you need that.
Right. The next year, Hasbrook Heights came out and had the same level of talent as us, athletes all over the place. They had athletes and linemen too. They were as big as we were. Like they averaged like 250 on the line. We averaged like, something around there. And they got up and I was like, oh, now we couldn't stop them. Like I was like, our defense has no fortitude, dude. No ability to just stand in there and stop these guys. It didn't matter. We were trying everything too. Like we're, when you're diving into your like deep, you're like, oh,
you're like, I need to do.
I'll run this blitz to stop them. Like none of this other stuff that we've doing all year is working anymore. So we'll try this. And
no, it's not.
I mean, they were diving into like he's like, I have these blitzes that we haven't run in a while, but they're killing us and everything else. Should we just try them? I'm like, dude, do whatever you think. Like, try it. Who cares? This team is going through.
What's the difference? We got nothing to lose right now,
and we could score because we had Adiyami De Silva at quarterback. We could score. I mean, we could score. We were scoring 1,000,000 points, but we could not stop them, and they beat us. And that realization of that team is what cost them getting back to the state championships, because they thought, if you were to interview them, they thought no one could beat them in their heads. But it wasn't because they had done – it was just because they were beating up everybody,
right?
Because they had so much more ability than the teams they were playing at the time.
Right.
Yep. It wasn't – and you know in Group 1 how that can happen, right? Because you went to Butler, right? So you know when you're better than a lot of these other teams, you know what I'm saying?
It's just how it works.
You just
like there's a level of like, yeah, like I know, like this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? Like you just know.
And your good Butler teams, the teams that won in Butler, right? Was yes, they won all these games 40-0, 40-7, 35, to 14. They won all those games, but they were able to stay focused on the fact that did not mean that they were going to win the championship just because they were beating up lesser, people that had more talent than. Like you had a lot of talent, you had a nice system, and that was us too. We were like, we had a nice system, we had talent, like people, as a Group 1, you have a guy that can read the backside end on zone read very well.
It's over.
And he can run, his quarterback, and he pulls. I mean, he's got to be one guy. It's funny because I've coached teams that you run it, he pulls it, he reads it well. The talent wasn't there, and he gets tackled for a 5-yard gain. I'm like, geez. Like, I've had teams where that guy goes to the end zone.
Oh, damn. Like we're really working with something different here.
Yeah. Like I've had quarterbacks that take that ball and he's banging his head in the end zone on that same exact play, and you get a 5.
Like, I guess this isn't happening. This, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just know, you figure it out real quick.
But it's really interesting to see that. And I think your point on college is it's very, very interesting because college coaches are very different than high school coaches.
100%. And that's not like it's not really
not a knock. It's just what they have to do.
No, but if you also think about it, like college is like, like captains in high school matter because it's like the pulse of like whatever. But for the most part, if you're a good team in college, like those guys police themselves, dude. Like every one of them was probably their captain of their high school. So
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So like now it's like, all right, dude, like I can handle myself. I don't need you to tell me what to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just a different type of.
Well, I think if you have a team, like you said, in Montclair, you probably had a lot of those, right? Where if you had teams that, the ones that were really good.
Sacred Heart, fucking disaster. Like, you could tell, like, there was, like, some of those guys were not their captains. Like, you know what I mean? And it was just kind of like, now look, was the ship righting? I was also part of, like, the first class in with a new regime and, like, you know what I mean? But, like, you can see how that stuff works. I mean, and there was also, like, a lot of, like, standards at Montclair, like, this is what we do here. This is how we do it. And there was a lot of guys that took a lot of pride in upholding that. And there was also, like, GAs that had played there that your GAs were almost your captains.
The other thing I think that's a good point. The other thing I think that you guys probably had at Montclair that you didn't yet have at Sacred Heart. Montclair, everybody probably respects the coaching staff because, So when I was
or at least you respected the head guy, like the ultimate,
right?
But you know what I mean, like the ultimate. But like, and that's what you get.
UConn.
Sacred Heart, you could see that too with like the changeover, like it was the same defensive staff, you know what I'm saying? So like guys respected, like even offensive guys respected the DC. You know what I mean? Like to that level.
Like I thought Holtz did a great job, even though my senior team didn't accomplish with it. I thought for the most part, as a young guy, he did a really good job of commanding respect as much as a 29, 30-year-old could do at that time, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, dude. Because that's really hard.
That's hard. But I thought he did a really good job at that time. Obviously, now as a guy who's been around forever, I'm sure he's
he looks like he's fucking unbelievable.
He's the man, So, but that young experience probably helped him. But I thought he did a good job. Tom Jackson, he died. I love Tom Jackson's personality. Okay, but the players
didn't respect
him the way that
that sucks.
They might have been scared of him because he was a gigantic guy. I mean, he was 6'5".
But you know what? But that sucks,
they didn't respect him. They didn't respect.
And I would not be like, I would not like that as another player. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, dude.
Him personally, people liked him. I liked him personally, but I don't think they respected him.
Yeah, dude, I get it. And if you don't win, you sure hang out with it.
You would hang out with Tom Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so weird. That's so weird, though.
If Tom Jackson invited you over your house, like if you, Derek, if you were a recruit there, you would
go hang out.
You'd be like, this guy's cool. Like he'll talk sport. Like he knew everything about. Like he was very well versed in sports. Like everything. You know what I'm saying? Not just a football guy, but like he knew stuff. And he was. He was a great guy from a recruiting aspect. That's why we had a lot of talent.
Right.
But he didn't enforce things. Like I always thought his 3-strike rule was the dumbest rule ever. Like, of course, any kid who is somewhat of a knucklehead is going to take 2 strikes. Who is not? What kid is not going to take 2 strikes? A 19-year-old, like, you were like, you go into this party and you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. They're like, you know what? If I don't show up on time tomorrow, I'm just going to take my 1 strike. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep. 100%.
A team full of guys taking strikes, guys who probably would do the right thing if you kind of.
Right. You're like, hey, I'm good. I have a couple.
So I thought those kind of things were not the best mode. You know what I mean, to do it. But sure, did he get lots of talent? Did we win some games because we had a lot of talent? Yeah. And were the guys cool on our team? Yep. But Holtz brought more order to it, which I think was very good. And that's why he's been successful like he is, because he brought much more order to the whole entire, process.
Right. Which is like what you have to do if you really want to be good.
Which is what you had at the Division III level at Montclair State. He brought order to the process. Now, I don't know how it is. I mean, college now must be crazy because even if you bring order. I can't
even imagine.
You could bring order to it, and it could still be a nightmare.
Shit show.
Yeah, because you might have this kid who transferred in who doesn't understand the system.
And now all of a sudden you got to read, like, that's all has to, you know what I mean? Like, you got to figure all that out again.
That's hard. I think
hell yeah.
It's kudos to those guys that do figure it out and nail it, because
like Shiano, I think, has a level of it. I think that's a respect factor, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, he definitely does. It does, but the flip side is it doesn't even guarantee winning. So
not even close. So you could do all that shit and do whatever, and it still don't matter.
That's
how frustrating is that?
That's hard, I think, for a lot of football coaches. Probably
Absolutely.
Your age group and older, that's hard to wrap your head around.
Well, it's also hard. Like, now you start, yes, you can do everything, and like, you tell me, like, trust this process, and like, now, like, what? Like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that sucks.
That's why guys go to the NFL, because they know, okay.
But also, like, at that level too, right? Like high school, here you are putting in all this time, doing all this whatever, and like, you don't win a game because you don't have a Jimmy or a Joe.
Well, that's exactly right. You don't have a Jimmy or a Joe.
That's really all right. Well,
that was really good. Let's end the pod. That was we ended up turning it into a 2-hour pod discussion.
Sometimes I think, like, us just going back and forth, like, that's a pod in itself, for Christ's sakes. If people heard the conversations, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, when we start shooting around, like, coming up with whatever based off of, like, experiences, and then, like, where we're at now, like, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that's like beyond. We talk about stuff that's, all kinds of levels in terms of like, what we're talking about or any of that kind of stuff, dude. Like it all works out when we start getting after it.
There's no doubt about it. It makes the pod much better, and I think it's a thing that every coach kind of wrestles with. Like you're wrestling,
100%, dude.
You're wrestling with these things, and I saw
on a constant basis.
Yeah, I saw the interesting post from your cousin yesterday.
Dude, that's basically like that's not triggered off of like something that happened or something like whatever. That's just him like being self-aware of it and like, oh,
yep,
you know what? Like, yeah, it's not like something like, because guys were hitting me up like, what happened with your cousin? What? Nothing, dude. The guy had like a weekend where he took a step back. He looked at some things and was like, you know what, dude? Like, I feel like I need to like express this and get this out. Right. Because, some people were saying some people were saying some things about, social media this, social media that, like all that kind of stuff. Like, it was just like, you know what? Like, I don't need to do any of this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, or on this level, like, I don't know. It wasn't anything like, oh my goodness, but just a different self-awareness that he wanted to put out there. And I hit him up. I get kudos to you, dude. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, platform over posts, some shit.
Well, that's what this podcast does well, because I think that we just try to talk about the things that you might be thinking about as a coach. Like you might be thinking about stuff. So anyway, let me let you run. Great podcast.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.